My name's Kuki Hundal, and I'm one of the creators of the Boom Bust Insider program. The Boom Bust Insider program is an 8-week online course, and it's designed to answer 2 key questions for investors, for homeowners, and for business owners, and even policymakers. And those 2 questions are, number 1, what happens next to house prices and property prices? Are they going to go up? Are they going to go down, or are they going to go sideways? And the second thing it answers is, and very importantly, when is that most likely to happen? The Boom Bust Insider program is basically a blueprint of the 18.6-year property cycle. I decided to create the Boom Bust Insider program at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. What happened was we had the onset of the pandemic, there was a huge stock market panic, and literally everybody, economists, journalists, property gurus, YouTube experts, everybody was predicting a tremendous downturn in property prices and essentially telling everybody that there was going to be a huge property crash. We were apparently going to go through the same period as we did between 2008 and 2012 all over again. Now, what we understood as people who have been studying the land cycle and members of Property Sharemarket Economics is that at that period it was the mid-cycle slowdown and that we were not going to see a major downturn in house prices. It was at that point that I decided to create the course. I first met Phil in 2007, and that was at a lecture that he held at the time at the School of Economic Science in London. And the title of the lecture caught my eye. The title was Boom Bust and the Housing Depression of 2010, Is Your Home Safe? So when I read the title of that lecture, I decided to go along, and Phil, along with another economist called Fred Harrison, gave a very interesting lecture, and during that talk he essentially presented his research and data on the 18.6-year property cycle. And what Phil told the audience at the talk was that the following year, in 2008, was going to be the onset of the next property crash. Now, at the time it seemed completely unbelievable that at the very height of the property market, where literally house prices were going through the roof and businesses everywhere were doing so well, how on earth could it turn around? Even policymakers and people such as the Chancellor Gordon Brown were saying in the press and on the news that it was the end of boom and bust. So how could it possibly be that we were going to have a downturn the year after? Sure enough, the year after, there was the beginning of the downturn, and we saw the property crash and the decline in prices that Phil had predicted. Interestingly, he'd also predicted that after 2011 or so, that property prices were going to begin to rise again into the next property cycle. And since that time, essentially what was predicted on that day by Fred and Phil has panned through exactly on time. The main challenge was to be able to organise the material. This is 30 odd years of Phil's research in such a way that basically anybody could understand it. So the 18.6-year property cycle is actually really simple. It's just that the economists and the media out there, the common perception is that the economy is actually very, very complicated. Well, in fact, the 18.6-year cycle, the land cycle, once you understand it, it's very simple indeed. And so in creating the course, the idea was to be able to take somebody through that journey as to how the cycle works, why it works as it does, what the drivers are, why do house prices go up, and importantly, when things change, why does that happen? Okay. So the aim of the course is to get people to understand this for themselves. So they never have to take somebody else's word for it. Once they understand for themselves the economics, this is real science, this is real economic science. Once that becomes understood and it's seen, then the person who's done the study can ignore the noise, okay, can see through the fog and is able to understand that the answer to that key question, which they'll have you, or the common perception or the common belief is that it's impossible to know what's going to happen next. I mean, how could that possibly be the case? Well, actually, if you understand the economics behind the 18.6-year property cycle, that's precisely what it can give you. The key benefit of the Boom Bust Insider program is that it hugely accelerates the understanding and learning of the 18.6-year property cycle. Essentially, it condenses 30 years or so of research into a program that one can study in your own time, and in a few short weeks one can gain a much deeper understanding of how and why the property cycle works as it does. And the important benefit of that is that once you understand the way the property cycle works, and once you understand for yourself why the property cycle goes up and down the way it does and when that happens, this enables you to be investing in the right asset classes at the right point in time. So that means that you're buying the correct assets at the low points in the cycle, and so you take the advantage of the gain that occurs on the way up, and then very importantly that you're not over leveraged and you're not buying assets at precisely the wrong time. That's when there's going to be a major downturn in the market. One can position oneself on the right side of the market simply by understanding when the property cycle is going to turn.
Thanks for watching. Want to know more? Join our Property Cycle Investor newsletter. You'll get exclusive access to our new uploads on YouTube. Click here to watch our other videos.